So we will start a counter and we'll start counting. So our FPGA will act like an observer which will observe the input signal on a 100 megahertz clock. As I've told you, if our output is not same as input, that means something has happened on the input. Alright, so here is the connection. I'll first explain this to you, then I'll put the design on the FPGA. As you can see, this orange signal is the signal. Hello everyone, welcome to day 18 of the 100-day FPGA series. In this video, we will be seeing button debouncing example. So in the last video, we had seen how a button basically bounces, right? So if you want, I would suggest that if you go and watch that video, in that video you will get very good intuition of how and what this button debouncing thing is actually is, right? In the last video, we had seen a rising edge detector, right? And I told you that rising edge detectors will not be able to solve this button debouncing issue because there are multiple rising edges inside a button bounce phenomena, right? So here in this example, I am going to show you a possible solution to this button debouncing problem, right? So this button debouncing thing can be approached in various methods and can be solved using various different styles of coding in Verilog, right? So basically you can use finite state machines, you can use different things, but I will not use finite state machines here since I haven't covered finite state machines yet. I'll cover finite state machine, then we can see this, right? We will see different kind of implementation, but here I will see a simplest kind of implementation of button debouncing, right? So let's first understand the logic behind this button debouncing, and then we will code it in Verilog. From the last video, you already know that button debouncing looks something like this. So at this instance, I have pushed the button, and instead of getting a clean signal, clean transition, I'm getting this not so clean bouncy transition, right? And our job is to get a clean transition. So observe this entire bouncing thing and give our output as clean transition. So this is what we are going to do. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to track the input, right? So initially let's start from here. So let's say our output is low. Now this is our original signal and this is what we are outputting. So this is the processed signal. This processed signal is coming from the FPGA, right? Our goal is to make this processed signal clean, right? This transition needs to be clean. Then only we will be able to do different kind of things with our push button logic. Otherwise, you already saw that this bouncing effect basically breaks many of our designs, right? So practical FPGA designs need debouncing. So this processing signal, as soon as we see that our input signal coming from the push button, as soon as this changes, so what we are going to do, we are going to observe this signal, and as soon as the input signal differs from our signal, output signal, we will begin the counting. Okay. So as I've told you in the last video itself, that this transition period is 200 microsecond to 1 millisecond. So if I set a counter which counts up to 1 millisecond, then we will be able to surpass this bouncing thing. For doing that, as soon as this input signal differs, we will start a counter and we'll count. Okay, now we will count up to a certain value so that we match this delay. Okay, and let's say we start counting over here. Since the input, if you see, this is the input from the push button, it has differed from our output that we are giving. So we will start a counter and we'll start counting, and we'll count let's say for a 100 megahertz clock, we'll count 100,000 for 1 millisecond, right? 100,000 cycles is equal to 1 millisecond, because one cycle is 1 over 100 megahertz, which is 10 to the power minus 8 second, and if you multiply this, you will get 1 millisecond. Okay, so as soon as we start our counter, we'll start counting. So we'll count from 0 and we'll let's say up to here we have counted anything, like let's say we have counted up to 5,000. So we still haven't reached our 100,000 mark, and this thing has changed, right? And now this signal has become equal to our output signal. So what we will do, we will reset the counter in this condition. Okay, as soon as we see that the input signal is not stable, so this is what instability is, right? It changed from the original value to a certain value, and within a very short time span it changed its value again. right? So that time span we will be able to configure. Usually we will keep 1 millisecond, but if it has changed, we'll basically do counter is equal to 0. We will reset the counter, and what that will do is it will start counting again. Now what will happen, as soon as the input signal again differs from our output signal, we know that something has happened again. So again we will start counting, and let's say this time we reach only 1000, right? And then it became low, so it became again same as our output. So again this signal wasn't high for long enough that we register it and we push our output signal as high, right? So this will continue until we come here, right? Here what is going to happen, we will see that our input signal is not the same as our output signal, that the signal that we are outputting, giving. So what will happen, again the counter will start, but this time since this is not going to 0, the counter will not reset, right? So here 0 to 100,000 it will be able to count, right? And as soon as it counts up to 1000 and it reaches that value, that means that the signal has been stable for that many cycles, because if the signal wasn't stable, your counter would reset, right? The counter hasn't resetted yet. That means our signal is constant up to 100,000 cycles, and that we will register now, because that means if the signal is constant for this long, which we have defined how long it needs to be constant. So if the signal is constant for this long, that means probably the signal is actually constant, right? So here we can basically register it, and at that time we will be able to, at that time what we will do, from our FPGA logic we will transition this clean signal from low to high. Okay, so our FPGA will act like an observer which will observe the input signal. So if this is our FPGA, we are inputting the signal, we are inputting the bouncy signal, and this FPGA will see the signal and will basically give the output as clean signal once it sees the transition. Okay, so this entire thing might not be clear right away, so we'll let's go into Verilog, we'll design the entire thing, then you will understand like completely understand what is going on. So let's go into Verilog. Alright, so I'm in VS Code. So today I'm using VS Code because VS Code will offer many more features, and in the future I will make a video where I will help you to set up your VS Code with all the compilers and linters and everything. So stay tuned for that. I'll do that in another video. And in VS Code you can install extensions and everything, so that will make life a lot easier. So in Notepad also you can install stuff, but in VS Code installing everything is very easy. Okay, so here in extensions you can search for system Verilog, and if you install this extension, this will basically help with formatting and linting and everything. For linting, what you require is iVerilog installed, so I will make a video about that as well, and how you can install it and all the open source synthesis tools and everything. I'll make a video on that, but today let's not get there, let's just write our design. Okay, so starting off, again here also I can take input from the onboard push buttons as well, but I'll use external push button because I will show everything on the oscilloscope. Okay, I'll probe the push button and I'll probe the output, and I'll show you the output how it looks. Okay, so that is why I'm using external push button. You can use internal push buttons as well. So here I'll name it PB push button, and in the output so as I've told you, we need a counter, right? So for the counter I'll have a counter variable, and we'll count up to a certain number of cycles that we call delay. Okay, so depending on how much delay we want, we will basically count the number of that many cycles. Okay, so in the last video we had seen that this entire width was around 150 or 200 microseconds, but we will take 1 milliseconds for to be safe. Okay, so for 1 milliseconds on a 100 megahertz clock, as I've told you, we need 10 to the power 5 cycles, 100,000 cycles. Okay, so I'll do local parameter let's name it delay, and I'll do 100,000. okay, and here in the reset I'll have the counter as 0, and the counter you need to set in number of bits. okay, so because you need to count up to 100,000, so number of bits for counting 100,000, if you see, 2 to the power 16 is 65,536, so I think 2 to the power 17 should do the trick. Yeah, so 17 bits will be able to count up to 100,000. So here we'll take 16 down to 0, which is 17 bits, and let's come to our logic now. okay, so in the reset condition, let's set the output as 0. okay, now we need to do reg over here, because we are assigning pb clean in side always block, so we need to do that. And here let's write our logic. So as I've told you, first off, what we will see this, if our output is not same as input, that means something has happened on the input, right? So if my output, which is pb underscore clean, if that is not equal to my input, which is pb, okay, pb is the input. If my output is, if I'm not outputting something that is the input, that means input has changed. okay, so if the input has changed, what I'm going to do, I will count. okay, so as soon as my input is changed, as I've told you, we will start counting. We will count until we reach a certain number of cycles. So if we reach that number of cycles, then we will toggle our output and make it same as the input, right? That means the input has been stable enough. If we haven't reached that many cycles, that means we need to increase the counter. okay, so if counter is equal to delay, if the counter has reached the delay that we have set, that means we need to change our output and make it same as the input. okay, and we can also reset the counter, and if we haven't reached that many cycles, then we will do counter, we will just increment the counter. So this is when something has changed. okay, this is when our output is not the same as our input, that means something has changed. Otherwise, if the output is same as the input, that means nothing has changed. okay, so in that case we do not need to count, and we'll write ctr equal to 0. What this will do is, this will reset the counter if the input signal changes within like before the counter reaches this many number of cycles, right? As I've told you, the input signal, let's say it is 0, and if this comes back to 0, that means this condition will be run, right? That means pb clean, that is our signal, output signal, is becomes same as the input signal. That means the change hasn't held up for long enough, and there we will basically reset the counter, and that is how we always start from 0 once the input is of different value than our output. okay, so this ctr equal to 0 does that. This entire thing should be working, right? So let's put this on the FPGA. For that, we'll make a project in Vivado. So let's start Vivado and we'll create a project. Next, I'm going to add the design source that I have created in VS Code. So I had saved it in documents. So this has been added. What I will do is I will add constraints, and all the pin constraint I'll add and put it on the FPGA, and we'll see everything on the oscilloscope. okay, so let's add the constraints. In the constraints, what all we require, this is the Nexus 4 master constraints file. I'll require clock, and this push button and push button clean, I will add it on the pmods. okay, so I will probe them and I'll add an external push button, so that is why I'm using pmods. okay, you can use the internal switch as well, internal push buttons as well. okay, alright, so I've added the constraints file. Now I will generate the bitstream. okay, and we'll see it on the FPGA. So generate the bit stream. Alright, so here is the connection. I'll first explain this to you, then I'll put the design on the FPGA. So this is my push button that I'm going to be pushing, and here on the button, as I've already told you, there are two contacts. This contact is going to 3 volt over here, so 3 with 3, as you can see it is going there, and this over here is going to the ground through a pull down resistor, the other contact. Okay, so that means if I'm not pushing the button, this contact remains connected to ground through the pull down resistor, so we will get a logic 0 and not a floating pin. Okay, that is the reason for that. And the rest two wires on this contact is for two things. First off, this is going to the FPGA for the input of the bounce signal, right? So for the bounce signal, I'm putting this wire which is the FPGA input, and this wire over here, it is connected to the same output of the push button, and it is going to my orange probe, okay, oscilloscope probe for my analog discovery. And then this black wire over here is the FPGA output. The cleaned version is this black one, which is going to this blue analog discovery oscilloscopes probe. Okay, so this is the entire connection. Next I'll program the FPGA and we'll see everything. Alright, so FPGA is programmed. Now let's go into the waveform software. So I'll run this oscilloscope, and there are two traces. Okay, there is this blue trace and there is an orange trace over here, and I'm going to push the button and we'll see the output over here. Okay, so this may take few tries, but here we have the signal. As you can see, this orange signal is the signal that is being directly probed from the switch. Okay, this orange probe over here is the button signal that is bouncing. Okay, if I zoom in, you can see this, you can see clearly this is the button bounce over here. This blue signal is the signal given by the FPGA. As you can see, through this flag it goes to this blue probe. Okay, and this blue signal over here, as you can see, that it waits for the signal to get stable and then it transitions. So if you see this transition over here, this is clean transition. Okay, so effectively we have debounced the signal. This is the input signal, which is bounce signal, and we have debounced the signal like this. You can see the signal is clean, right? So button debouncing is implemented on the FPGA. Alright, so I've shown you the button debouncing example on the FPGA, and we have seen that how the FPGA logic is able to convert that bouncy signal to a clean signal through the analog discovery oscilloscope, right? So button debouncing is implemented on the FPGA. What I'm going to do in the next video is we will create a mini project. Okay, what we will do, we'll create we'll have a push button counter. Okay, so we'll be able to something like a tally counter. We will push the button and we'll store it in a counter. So that will be our mini project in the next video. So see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.